Okay, hello everyone. All right. So in this video, I wanted to talk about literals. Okay, the term literals. Now you're going to hear this term so many times in programming, and while you're coding, especially, you're going to hear it. People or other coders or other people use literals, or you're going to see it in books or videos. It's simply any value, okay, in the code of your in your code while you're writing the program. So bear with me here whilst I just type in a few things. It's basically similar to the code that we had in the previous video. So I'm going to go ahead and declare a variable. Now, I know we haven't talked deeply about declaring variables, but we had an overview, and based on the overview, this is something we covered. So hopefully you understand it, right? So we are declaring a variable. We are calling it number, and we are saying the type of data that can be stored in this number is an integer, basically. And over here, we're saying that we want to store the value 9 in number. And we are telling the computer to go ahead and print out, so system.out.println, what is stored in number. So we can, first of all, create a string and say the value of the number variable is, and I'm going to go ahead and concatenate it with the actual value of number. Now we mentioned that when you concatenate a number to a string, because everything that is displayed by the println statement, everything that is displayed by the println method has to be converted to a string. Because of that, because everything that is displayed by the println method has to be converted to a string, this number is converted to a string, okay, before everything else is printed. Now this is already converted to a string. This is a number, right? It's being joined to this string, but before it's displayed, it has to be converted to a string. Before it's displayed, it has to be converted to a string. All right, so when we compile this and we run it, we expect to see a display, or basically an output saying, let's see, the value of the number variable is 9. If I change this to 56, it says, compile this and then run it. It says the value of the number variable is 56. All right, so now let's talk about literals and what it means. So I mentioned that it's simply a value that is written in your code, a value. Now, not everything is a literal. Now, these are certainly not literals, right? These are there are different words, there are different keywords. We'll talk about that also in a future video. But not everything is a literal. It has to be a value, okay, that is written in your code. Now, we know that this is a variable name. This is the type, but again, we'll talk more about variables. Now we know this is a variable, same name. We are referring to the variable that was declared up here. Now we know this 56 is a value. So in this case, this 56 is an integer literal. It's an integer literal. It's simply a literal. It's simply a value that is written into our code. Now you're going to hear again. You're going to hear this term around. You're going to see it in books and videos. So just know that, just so you know, this is a value, and because of that, it's a value that, because it's a value written into our code, it's a literal, right? It's an integer literal. Now this is just a statement. This is a class, object, method. So these are not literals, but over here we are saying print out something. Now what should we print? We should print out the value that we pass in here. So in other words, this whole string here is one value, and because of that, it's a string literal. It's a literal. We know that number is a name of the variable, so that's not necessarily it's a variable name, all right, but then when it's displayed, it's going to go ahead and display the content of number 56 itself. It's a literal over here. All right, so this is a literal, and this is a literal. Okay, it's a value that's written into our code. If I had, let's say, the value of the number variable is, and I go ahead and I concatenate, let's say, another string to it, and I put a colon, and I say dot 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 dot, and I concatenate it with number. So in other words, we're saying the value. Let's compile this and display it. All right, so it says the value of the number variable, that variable is, so that's the first string displayed. And then we are concatenating another string, which is a colon, a space, and the dot dot, the periods. That's also another string. And then we are concatenating finally number. And I'm going to, there's a space here, so we are concatenating finally number. Now, because this is a value that we provided to the println, because the println says, okay, what do you want me to print? This is the value we provided. Print out this, and then join it with, this is also another value. Okay, so because they are values, they are literals. They're simply literal. Literal is simply a value that we write into our code. So this is a string literal. This is a string literal here. And over here, this is a value that we are storing in number. So because of that, it's an integer literal. They're basically literals in term. But to be specific, we have integer literals, string literals, and other type of literals. But generally, they are called literals. So just for you to have an idea of this term literals, because you're going to hear it, that's what it is. All right. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time with the next video. All right. Bye-bye.